Anyway, it's a good job we arrived when we did. My suggestion, might I add. And where we did. Okay, Dean's suggestion, but where I would have said anyway. Because the crowd waiting for Double Vision was freaking enormous. There were so many long legs and toned tummies on show that I feared for a moment that even Dolores might be overshadowed. But then I saw her flash a smile at the guy selling programs, and from the way he watched her walk away, I knew that we were home and dry. "That's it, Dolores, work those shorts," I muttered to her out the side of my mouth. To my surprise, Aggie, who I'd forgotten about to be honest, suddenly giggled behind me. "They are very short shorts, aren't they? I'm so jealous," she added in a totally non-jealous voice. "I'd never get away with those, even if Dad would let me out of the house in them." Mum wouldn't. She barely let Dolores out of the house. She's really strict about clothes and curfews and, just about everything. Boring. This was another total lie, at which I seemed to be becoming rather expert, as Mum is pretty relaxed about most things, and would probably quite like me to ever ask her about suitable clothes, or to ever need to discuss curfews and so on, seeing as I never leave the house. I like the house. Why go out? So the subtext of this whole pile of baloney was, "Mum's awful, you'd hate her. Stay away. Keep Dean away too while you're at it. And don't even think about getting keys and turning up in my bathroom." Aggie gave me another of her cryptic glances, and then we plunged into the flesh fest after Dolores, who was somehow still managing to cut a swathe through the crowd, even though it was 99% female. I reckon the divvies, Double Vision fans, just knew their leader when they saw her. She who would be crowned Queen of the Divvies. She who would marry King Jazzy the Divine and fulfill all their dreams for them. As long as we got to meet Jazzy. Remember him? My matey mate old buddy from school? Oh, and super megastar lead singer of the biggest boy band in the country and possibly the world. All at once I remembered why we were actually at the Z. And so did somebody else. "I can't believe we're actually here, and we're actually going to meet Divine Jazzy D," squeaked Aggie, glowing happily as she held her program above her head and shoved through the crowd beside Dolores. The two of them high-fived and squealed in unison. "Keep your voice down," I hissed. "You don't want everyone knowing we're going to meet Jason." I decided to use his real name to sound more, real, like I really knew him for the millionth time that day. I wondered if my letter had ever got to him. Aggie nodded quickly. "Sorry, you're absolutely right. So, are we meeting him before?" she said, under cover of the double-page spread of Jason and his pectoral muscles, which could frankly give Dolores a run for her money. "Or after the show?" "After," I said quickly. "Definitely after." As I wasn't at all interested in hearing the guys, I already planned to spend the whole show tracking down Stephen's scowl or a door with stars on it, finding out just where the guys would be after the event. Then I could be standing by with Dolores the decoy and nerdy-ferdy Freddie would be mine. I mean, Aggie could get to meet him and make her dreams come true. So that's what I did. After we'd spent 45 minutes squashed into each other and everyone else while we waited for the main doors to open at 6:30 p.m, and then the next 17 minutes climbing a million stairs like something out of Kung Fu Panda to find our seats, and then a total of 52 minutes going back down them finding the loos while Dolores redid her lip gloss, and then clambering back up them again. At 8 p.m, the support band came on. Can't even remember their names, but felt very sorry for them, as everyone just started doing Mexican waves and shouting, "Double Vision!" and "Jazzy, Jazzy, Jazzy!" right over the top of all their songs. And then finally, at just after 9 p.m, the lights all went dim, and then flashed on again in a rainbow of laser beams, and the crowd went ballistic. Several small girls beside me started to cry. One of them was Dolores. "What are you crying for?" I said, mystified. I don't know. I'm just so excited, she snivelled. Well, please stop it. Your mascara's running. How was she going to land the dreamy Jazzy D with panda eyes? I handed her a tissue, checked that all the band were on stage and that both Aggie and Dolores were suitably entranced, and then hollered, I'm just going to the loo. I don't think they even heard me. Just stood there clutching each other's wrists while Dolores screamed like a fire engine siren for no apparent reason. Aggie put out her hand as if to offer to mind my bag for me, so she must have registered I was off somewhere. But I needed that bag, so I clutched it to me and waved, then sidled past 400 hysterical Year 10s to get to the aisle. This gave me a good opportunity to face the stage and check out what all the fuss was about. And honestly, I do not get it. The guys were all leapfrogging each other and yelling to different sections of the audience. But let's face it, anyone can do that. Even me, and I'm hopeless at gymnastics. They were all quite good-looking in an obvious way, but there wasn't a skinny, nerdy, brainy type among them. In fact, a couple of them looked like the only test they'd ever pass would be one for steroids. And then there was Jazzy D. The divine Jazzy D, or Jason Devaney as I was determined to call him. Well, yes, he was quite pretty, I suppose, with big wistful eyes and a quirky way of holding his guitar, all of which I could only see on the massive screens either side of the stage, as the stadium was so huge that, in reality, they were just action figures in the distance. I looked again at Jason. What was it about him? He started to sing, and I suppose he had quite a good voice. A light tenor in madrigal terms. He danced as well as the rest of them, though not as often as he appeared to actually be playing his guitar. And he did look quite muscular, with biceps flexing whenever he strummed a chord, and a powerful neck that made his costume collar look a bit tight, so he had to loosen it every now and again, to the massive excitement of the thousands of tweeny girls in the audience who obviously thought he was about to rip his shirt off at any moment. Keep it on! I wanted to shout every time the cry of off, off, off rippled round the stadium. Not my type, that's all I'll say. And remembering that the one who was my type was under the misconception that Dolores was his type, I hurried down the near vertical stairs and ran out into the vast corridor that circled the arena. It took me nearly 45 minutes to trot around the entire venue, looking for manager's office or Mr. Scowl's trailer or similar. Eventually, I found a sectioned-off area, which obviously led directly from the stage, as it was manned by some very burly, well, men.
Can't come through here, love, said the nearest of them. You'll just have to go back to your seat.
Is this where Jason comes off the stage? I fished around in my bag, and he suddenly looked quite alarmed.
Security did check your bag, right?
He held out a hand.
Best give it here, sweetheart.
Now, several of the others were lurching towards me too. At this rate, I was going to get thrown out. Finding what I was searching for, I pulled out my second letter to Jazzy D and handed it over. Just an envelope, that's all, I said. Look, nothing else in my bag. I'm a friend of Jason's from school in Jersey, and I just wanted to say hi afterwards. Right, said the man, clearly not believing a word. It's true. Ask him what the Year 1 teacher was called at his school. It was Mr. Favreau. Wow, I'd almost convinced myself we were genuinely mates in Jersey.
If you say so, love. Now back to your seat.
Please, I said, sounding a teensy bit desperate. Just give him the letter in the interval and tell him I'll see him afterwards. The man seemed almost sorry for me.
There's no interval, darling. It's not the theatre, you know.
Oh, no interval? There was always an interval at choral events. Well, just give it to him when you can. He nodded in a completely unconvincing way, so I knew that the letter was going in the bin the second my back was turned. For a moment I considered taking it back from him. But he'd folded his arms by now, and his biceps were even more bulgy than Jason's. So I just nodded back at him and shuffled backwards, trying to do some kind of Jedi mind trick on him until I hit a wall, and then turned and ran back to my seat. I'd missed almost the whole thing, thank the stars. In fact, I got back to my seat as Jason announced, "And this is our last song," and picked out a very nice acoustic melody on his ovation. That's a guitar, not a new word for abs or something. Aggie and Dolores were both in a trance. I pulled Dolores' hair to get her attention. "Come on, we've got to go now." "But it's the last song," bleated Dolores. "The best one," added Aggie. "I bought a glow stick specially for waving. It's show me tomorrow." "Well, I'm going to show you now. Jazzy D, downstairs, coming off the stage, but only if we leave this second." They took one look at me, grabbed their programs and legged it, followed by a swelling stream of girls who'd overheard me and cottoned on to what we were doing, or had just seen a queue and decided to join it. Consequently, by the time we got back round to the cordoned-off area, running at full pelt, we were no longer at the head of the crowd, which had taken on a life of its own, and the man who'd had hold of my letter, and was no longer holding it, I just about managed to notice, glanced up to find a tsunami of teenagers bearing down on him, just as Double Vision finished their final encore and spilled down the steps at the side of the stage. Our side. "There they are!" screamed someone, Aggie, I think, and suddenly the tide swerved and stampeded towards the crash barriers. "It's him! It's him!" Dolores could be heard above everyone else to begin with, but was soon drowned out by the cries of, "Jazzy, I love you! Jazzy, Jazzy, you'll do fine!" Time to use my height to my advantage. "Quick, Dolores, get on my shoulders!" Queen Divvy wasted no time in climbing up my back as best as she could, and if it was more of a piggyback than a shoulder ride, it didn't seem to matter. It still gave us some extra thrust as we barged our way through the madness, Dolores tossing her pink hair around and yelling, "I love you, Jazzy!" and me going, "Jason! Jason, it's me! Cat Andrews! Dolores, shout Jason Devaney instead of Jazzy." We'd just reached the barrier and the guys were sprinting along the other side of the metal bars, waving a little nervously. It all happened so quickly. Dolores shouted, "Jason Devaney!" at the top of her voice. Jason was just running by at that very second and turned to look at us in surprise. I stuck out my hand saying, "Jason, it's me, Cat Andrews from Jersey," as Dolores stretched out a taloned hand too and ripped his too-tight collar right off his shirt. He clutched at his throat as if he'd been strangled, but didn't stop running, though he did have time to gaze up at Dolores. Yes, I thought, now there'll be instant chemical reactions and marriage proposals. Then I saw the expression on his face, and it wasn't adoration. In fact, it wasn't anything like the expression on nerdy Ferdy Freddie's face when he'd stared up at Dolores. It was fear. Pure animal fear mixed with a teensy bit of loathing. And then he was gone. Jason Devaney, CO Stephen Scowl, Talent Factory, P.O. Box 47863, London SW19 8DR, or CO The Z Security. Hi Jason, just to confirm that me, Cat Andrews from your former school in Jersey, and my gorgeous brawl-causing friend Dolores, and someone else but you don't need to know about her. Anyway, we're going to be backstage waiting for you after the show at the Z, and it will be great to catch up on old times. Hey, I just remembered something else about our school. Do you recall the pea pod tree out the back of the playing field? The one that was actually a massively poisonous laburnum tree with evil seeds? Well, do you know it was me who stopped half of the reception class eating them because I knew something they didn't know. Peas don't grow on trees. It was after that they cordoned it off and put that keep away sign on it. Right, chuntering on about nothing, and we can discuss this and many, many, many other fond memories of our jointly attended primary school when I meet up with you after the gig. See you very soon. You're on stage in approximately 14 hours. Cat Andrews, kiss. And gorgeous Dolores, kiss, 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 kiss.